Hello students, in this lecture we are going to revise the entire chapter of Morphology of Flowering Plants. Let us start with the root. The root system is the below ground part of the plant and the shoot system is the above ground part of the plant. The root system is divided into three different types: the taproot system, the fibrous root system and the adventitious root system. In taproot system, the radicle elongates and forms the primary root. This primary root gives rise to the secondary roots and the tertiary roots. In case of fibrous roots, the primary root, that is the radicle, is short-lived and it soon disintegrates and it is soon replaced by many fibrous roots arising from the base of the stem. The taproot system is seen in case of the dicots, for example mustard, and the fibrous roots are seen in case of monocots. Monocots, for example wheat, rice. Then there is the third root system, which is the adventitious root system. In adventitious root system, the roots can arise from any other part of the plant other than the radicle. For example, from the nodes, seen in case of plants like monstera, banyan tree and grasses. Next, functions of the root: absorption, encourage, storage of food materials and synthesis of plant growth regulators like auxins. Next is regions of the root. This one at the tip is the root cap. It is protective in nature. What the root cap is actually protecting are these tiny cells in this region, which is called as the region of meristematic activity. The cells over here are very small in size. They are thin cell walled, very less intercellular spaces. They have a large nucleus and a dense cytoplasm. Next, the region above is called as the region of elongation. The cells over here are undergoing enlargement, that is, they are increasing in length, and this is the region that is responsible for increasing the length of the root. Remember that. Beyond the region of elongation, this region is called as the region of maturation. Here, the cells have undergone differentiation, that is, they have become permanent cells from meristematic cells and they have attained a fixed size, shape, structure and function. Some of the cells on the outside have elongated in the form of root hairs. Root hairs are unicellular in nature. Remember that. The function of the root hairs is that they are involved in the absorption of water and minerals. Moving on to the stem. Stem is the ascending part of the plant axis. It is the aerial part of the plant, and the stem axis is divided into nodes, then internodes. Internodes are the region between two nodes. Each node will bear the leaf. There is presence of buds onto the stem. There are two types of buds onto the stem. The first type of bud is the terminal bud, which is present at the tip of the shoot axis. The second type of bud is present in the axil of the leaves, and that is called as the axillary bud. The terminal bud and the axillary bud has presence of meristematic cells. For example, the axillary bud can grow into a branch or a flower or a tendril, or the terminal bud can give rise to a flower. Functions of the stem: it bears leaves, flowers, fruits. It gives support to the plant. It's involved in storage. It's also involved in the transport of the photosynthetes, which are the products of photosynthesis, and it also may be involved in vegetative propagation, for example in case of potato or ginger. Next, we look at the leaf. Leaf is the main organ for photosynthesis. It arises at the node. So this is the node, but this is the part of the stem, and it is from this region that the leaf arises. It has three different regions. This is the first region. This is called as the leaf base. This region is called as the petiole, and the third region is called as the leaf blade, also called as the lamina. The leaf base, in case of dicots, for example in case of dicots like legumes, it may be swollen and it is called as pulvinous. And in case of monocots, for example grasses, the leaf base may be enlarged in the form of a sheath and it may cover much of the petiole. Okay, so it is called as a sheathing leaf base. At the leaf base, there may be presence of two small leaf-like structures which are called as the stipules. The stipules are not present in all the plants. In some plants they are present, in some plants they are absent. If they are present, the leaf is called as stipulate leaf, stipulate or ex-stipulate. Examples not cited in NCERT. Next, petiole. Petiole is the slender part of the leaf that will have the presence of the vascular tissues inside it. In some leaves, the petiole may be entirely absent and the leaf may appear directly like this. These leaves are called as sessile leaves. Presence of petiole is helpful for the leaf. It allows the leaf to flutter in the wind, exposure to sunlight, etc. Next is the leaf blade or lamina. Lamina will have the presence of a prominent main vein and the presence of smaller veins and veinlets. The veins and the veinlets will have the presence of the vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem, inside them. The main vein is known as the midrib, and these are the smaller veins and veinlets. They will form a network onto the leaf lamina. Tip of the leaf blade is known as the apex. This outer boundary of the leaf is called as the leaf margin. These veins and veinlets can be arranged in two different types. In dicots, the arrangement of the veins and veinlets is usually in the form of such type of network. This is in case of dicots, and in case of monocots, the arrangement of the veins will be like this. The veins and veinlets run parallel to each other without forming a network. This is known as reticulate venation, and this one is called as parallel venation. This angle which the leaf makes along with the stem, this angle is known as the axile of the leaf, and in this axile of the leaf, where the stipules are, always there is presence of a bud in the axile of the leaf. This bud is known as the axillary bud. This axillary bud can grow into a flower, or it can grow into a tendril, or it can grow into a thorn or a branch, etc. It is part of the stem and it has presence of the meristematic cells. Next, in this leaf you see that the margin of the leaf is entire. So this leaf is said to be a simple leaf. Even if the margin is serrated, you see that the serrations are not reaching the midrib. So these two leaves are said to be simple leaves. But if these serrations happen to touch the midrib, then what will happen is this leaf is going to be divided into such kind of leaflets, and this entire thing is one leaf. The axillary bud will be not found in the axile of the leaflets, but it will be found in the axile of the main leaf. This leaf is no longer a simple leaf, it's called as a compound leaf. The midrib is no longer called a midrib in this case, it is called as a rachis. Compound leaves are of two different types. What I have shown over here is a pinnately compound leaf. For example, neem. There is another type of compound leaf wherein the leaflets arise at a common point on the petiole. This is known as a palmately compound leaf, wherein the leaflets resemble the fingers on a palm. That's why they are called as palmately compound leaf. Example given for palmately compound leaf is silk cotton. An example for pinnately compound leaf is neem. Moving on. Phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is the arrangement of the leaves onto the stem, which can be of three different types. It can be either alternate, or it can be opposite, or it can be in the form of a whorl. Do not confuse phyllotaxy with compound leaf. Those are leaflets over there, and these are the leaves. Each of the leaf over here will have axillary bud in its axile. These three arrangements are known as alternate, opposite, when two leaves arise, and this one is known as whorl. The examples are most important over here. The examples are China rose, mustard, sunflower. For opposite, examples are Calotropis, guava, and for whorl, Alstonia. Next we move on to the inflorescence. Two types of inflorescence is present: Racemose inflorescence and Cymose inflorescence. In the Racemose inflorescence, the main axis continues to grow. In case of Cymose inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower. This is the main axis. It continues to grow. Over here, it terminates into a flower. Growth is said to be indeterminate, unlimited. In case of Cymose inflorescence, the growth is said to be determinate and limited. Flower order is said to be acropetal in case of Racemose inflorescence, and in case of Cymose inflorescence, it is said to be basipetal. Position of the older flowers. The older flowers are at the bottom and younger flowers are at the top. In case of Cymose inflorescence, older flowers are at the top and younger flowers are at the base. No examples have been cited in NCERT for Racemose and Cymose inflorescence. Then another thing about inflorescence. In case of an inflorescence, this is the shoot that has modified itself into a floral axis, and now it is called as the peduncle. The stalk of every flower over here is known as the pedicel, and every flower at the base will have a small leaf from whose axillary bud this flower is born. This small leaf at the base of every flower is known as the bract. Next we move on to the flower. Flower is a modified shoot. The shoot has been compressed such that the nodes are at very close succession and each of the node bears floral appendages which we call as the calyx, corolla, androecium and the gynoecium from outside to the inside, wherein the calyx and the corolla are the non-essential whorls of the flower and the androecium and the gynoecium are the essential or reproductive whorls of the flower. In some flowers, the androecium and gynoecium both will be present. Such flowers will be called as bisexual flowers, and in some other flowers there will be either only androecium or only gynoecium present. Such flowers are known as unisexual flowers. In some flowers, the calyx and the corolla may not be distinct whorls, but they may be fused together to form a different type of whorl which we do not call as calyx or corolla. We call it as perianth, and the individual members of the perianth are known as the tepals. Example in case of lily. Next, based on the number of the individual members of the floral whorls, the flowers are known as trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous flowers. Trimerous if the floral appendages are in multiples of 3. This is mostly seen in case of monocots like lily. Tetramerous flowers are the ones in which the floral appendages are in multiples of 4. For example, the Brassicaceae family. And pentamerous flowers are the ones in which the floral appendages are in multiples of 5. For example, the Solanaceae family. Next, floral symmetry. There are 3 types of symmetries in flowers. One is the radial symmetry, which is called as the actinomorphic flowers. Examples given are mustard, datura and chili. Next is zygomorphic flowers which have a bilateral symmetry. Examples are pea, bean, gulmohar and cassia. And the third ones are asymmetric flowers. Only one example is cited, that is canna. You cannot divide it into 2 different planes. Examples are more important over here to be remembered. Next, position of the ovary on the thalamus. If the ovary is at the topmost position and the other whorls are below it, then this ovary is said to be a superior ovary or a hypogynous ovary. Hypogynous, the other whorls are below the gynoecium. That's why hypogynous ovary. Examples given are mustard, china rose, brinjal. Then, if the ovary is situated in a cup-like depression such that the other floral whorls are around the rim of the receptacle, almost at the same level as the ovary, that is called as a perigynous flower. Examples cited are peach, rose and plum. Third one, epigynous flowers are the ones in which the receptacle completely envelopes the ovary in such a way that the floral whorls are above the ovary. This is an inferior ovary, also called as epigynous flower. Examples are cucumber, guava and the ray florets of sunflower. So most important for you to remember is the terminology, that is hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous, and the examples of these 3. Also in case of symmetry. Next, we look at each of the individual whorls. Calyx. Calyx is the outermost whorl of the flower and the individual members are known as sepals. These sepals may either be fused or they may be free. If they are free, the situation is called as polysepalous condition, and if they are fused together, they are called as gamosepalous condition. No examples cited here. Moving on to corolla. Corolla is the second whorl of the flower, individual members of whom are called as petals. They are meant mainly for attraction of the pollinators. Just like sepals, the petals may also be either free or they may be fused. If the petals are free, they are called as polypetalous, and if the petals are fused, they are called as gamopetalous. No examples cited for these. Next, aestivation. Aestivation is the arrangement of the sepals or the petals in the flower bud, okay, in relation to each other. So this arrangement is known as aestivation. 4 types of aestivation have been described: valvate, twisted, imbricate and vexillary aestivation. Valvate. In valvate aestivation, the margins of the sepals or petals just touch each other but do not overlap. Example, calotropis. Next, in twisted aestivation, one of the margin of the petal or the sepal overlaps the next one and so on. Examples are china rose, lady's finger and cotton. Third one is imbricate aestivation. The margins of petals or sepals overlap each other but not in a particular direction. Examples are cassia, gulmohar, and last one is vexillary aestivation. This one is seen in pea, bean, that is the Leguminosae family. It is also called as papilionaceous aestivation because the Leguminosae family is also called as papilionaceae family. In this, there is a large petal which is called as the standard, which overlaps 2 smaller petals which are called as the laterals, also called as the wings, which in turn overlap the smallest petals which are fused together, by the way. These smallest petals are called as the keel. So 4 different types of aestivations. Examples are very, very important. Next part is the androecium. Androecium is the male reproductive whorl, individual members of which are called as the stamens. A typical stamen is bilobed, which is also called as dithecous, and it is tetrasporangiate. The stamens may either be free or they may be fused. If the stamens are free, they are called as polyandrous. And if the stamens are fused, there may be 2 ways in which they may be fused. They may be fused with each other, that is with other stamens, or they may be fused with other floral whorls. If they are fused with each other, the condition is called as adelphi, and if they are fused with members of other whorls of the flower, then it is called as cohesion. So we have adhesion and cohesion. Adhesion, wherein the stamens are fused with each other. If it is one bundle, this is called as monoadelphous condition. Example in hibiscus. 2 bundles, diadelphous condition, PB, and many bundles, it is called as polyadelphous condition. Example, citrus. Next, fusion with other floral whorls. Cohesion. The stamens may be fused with petals, in which case it is called as epipetalous condition. Example, brinjal, Solanaceae family. Or they may be fused with tepals, which is called as epiphyllous condition. Example will be lily. Next, the length of the stamens may differ. If there are 2 longer stamens and 2 shorter stamens outside, this is called as didynamous condition, which is seen in case of salvia. And second condition is wherein there are 4 longer stamens inside and 2 short stamens outside. This is known as tetradynamous condition, seen in case of mustard or the Brassicaceae family. Next we move on to the gynoecium. Gynoecium, that is the individual members of which are called as the pistil or the carpel. The pistils may either be free or they may be fused together. If they are free pistils, this is called as apocarpous condition, seen in case of lotus, rose. Second one is fused pistils. This is called as syncarpous condition, seen in case of mustard, tomato. In a syncarpous ovary, more than one ovary will be fused together. Such kind of syncarpous ovaries will usually have many locules inside. Locules means chambers. If 2 ovaries are fused together, it is called as bicarpillary syncarpous ovary, and it may be bilocular. If it is a tricarpillary syncarpous ovary, it may have 3 locules inside it. Similarly, pentacarpillary ovary will have 5 locules inside, and so on. Alternately, polycarpillary syncarpous ovaries may have just a single locule inside. The chambers inside the ovary are called as locules. The regions on the walls of the ovary to which the ovules are attached, such regions are known as the placenta. The placenta location may be different, and accordingly different types of placentations have been described. Definition of placentation is the arrangement of ovules inside the ovary depending on the location of the placenta is known as placentation. The first one is called as the marginal placentation, wherein the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary and the ovules are borne on this ridge in 2 alternate rows. This is known as marginal placentation, and it is seen in case of pea, bean, Leguminosae family. Next is axial placentation. The placenta forms a central column, and this is a multicarpillary syncarpous ovary. It's a multilocular ovary having many septa, and the ovules are borne on the central column. This is seen in case of the mnemonic. To remember this is Tom, the happy lemon, was cut by an X. Tom, tomato, happy, hibiscus, lemon, citrus was cut by an X. That is axial placentation. Next one is parietal placentation. In this case, the placenta is on the wall of the ovary on the peripheral part, and the ovules are located on the wall of the ovary. Normally this is a unilocular ovary, but it may become multilocular ovary because of the invagination of the placenta inside to form a septum. If the septum is formed by the ovary wall, then it is a true septum, but if the septum is formed by the placenta, this is called as a false septum, as seen in case of mustard. It is also known as replum. Okay, in case of mustard, the originally unilocular ovary is made into a bilocular ovary because of the formation of this false septum. The mnemonic to remember the examples is Pari must sit on the wall and argue. Pari, parietal placentation, must, mustard, sit on the wall. The placenta is on the wall and argue, argumon. Next one is free central placentation, wherein the placenta forms a central column just like axial placentation, but the difference between axial axial placentation and free central placentation is that in axial placentation it was a multilocular ovary, and over here it's not a multilocular, it's a unilocular ovary, and the ovules are born on the central column. Example in kiwi. The mnemonic to remember this is D and pre are free. Dianthus, primrose, free central placentation. Last one is basal placentation, wherein the placenta is at the base of the ovary. Usually a single ovule is attached at the base of the ovary. Mnemonic: Mary saw the sun at the base. Mary, marigold, sun, sunflower at the base. Basal placentation. So that was about placentation. Next we move on to the fruit. The ovary, when it is fertilized, matures into a fruit, wherein the ovule inside matures into the seed. Let's talk about the fruit. The fruit wall is known as the pericarp, which can be either dry or it can be fleshy. If it is a dry pericarp, the fruit is called a dry fruit, and if it is a fleshy pericarp, the fruit is called a fleshy fruit. In fleshy fruits, this fleshy pericarp is divided into three distinct layers: the outer epicarp, the middle mesocarp, and the inner endocarp. In different types of fruits, the different parts of the wall can be edible. In drupe, the endocarp is hard and stony, and the mesocarp is usually edible. In case of fruits like mango or a date or a cherry or a plum, hard and stony endocarp and fleshy mesocarp. Example, mango. Another example of drupe is coconut. In coconut, the mesocarp is fibrous. It is not fleshy, it is fibrous, and the endocarp is stony as usual, and the edible part in case of coconut is neither the epicarp, mesocarp or the endocarp. It is the seed that is edible. Which part of the seed is edible? The endosperm of the seed is edible, which is the white portion, which is the endosperm of the seed. Drupes are fruits which are formed from superior monocarpillary ovary. Moving on to the seed. Seed has three main parts: the seed coat, the embryo, and the endosperm. Two types of seed have been described: dicotyledonous seed and the monocotyledonous seed. For dicot seed, we take example of the gram seed. Seed coat is the outermost cover of the gram seed. It is divided into two layers: outer testa and the inner tegmen. The seed coat will have a scar on it, which is the place where this ovule was attached to the funiculus. The scar on the seed coat is known as hilum. There will be a small opening onto the seed coat as well, just above the hilum, that is called as the micropyle. Micropyle is the place from where the water and entry of air occurs inside the seed. Next, this entire thing is called as the embryo. The embryo is divided into two parts: embryonal axis and the cotyledons. This is the embryonal axis. The different parts are plumule, then below the plumule there is epicotyle, then there is the node. Below the node is the hypocotyle. Below the hypocotyle is the radicle. The node will bear two embryonic leaves, that is the cotyledons. In dicotyledonous plants there will be two cotyledons, that's why they call it as dicotyledonous plants. Next is the endosperm. The endosperm is usually not present in dicot seeds because it has been entirely consumed by these cotyledons. Okay, usually dicot seeds are non-endospermous seeds or ex-albuminous seeds, but some dicot plants may be endospermous. For example, castor seed is endospermous, and Solanaceae, which despite being dicot seeds are endospermous. Next is monocot seeds. Monocot seeds example cited is maize seed. The fruit wall and the seed coat are fused together in case of the maize seed, and this entire portion is the endosperm. The outer region of the endosperm is a proteinaceous layer which is called as the aleuron layer, and this is the inner endosperm which is called as the mealy storage, which is mainly starch, and this aleuron layer is mainly proteinaceous. This protein layer separates the embryo, which is situated in a groove on the lateral side. This is the embryonal axis here. There is a large shield-shaped cotyledon. The large shield-shaped cotyledon is known as the scutellum. Just a single cotyledon is present. Another small remnant of the second cotyledon is present, which is called as the epiblast. This is there in 12th standard. Then there will be the plumule and there will be the radicle, but the plumule is covered by sheath-like structures which is called as the coleoptile, which is the sheath around the plumule, and there will be a sheath around the radicle also, which is called as coleorhiza. These kind of sheaths are not present in case of dicot seeds. Main difference between dicot and the monocot seed is that dicot has two cotyledons, monocot has one cotyledon which is called as the scutellum, which is a shield-shaped cotyledon. Second point, such kind of sheaths, coleoptile and coleorhiza are present only in monocot seeds, absent in the dicot seeds. seeds. Next, endosperm. Endosperm is mainly not present in case of dicot seeds except for castor and Solanaceae family, and it's present in case of monocot seeds. Some monocot seeds may be non-endospermous, for example orchids. Important example of non-endospermous or ex-albuminous monocot seeds. In semi-technical description, the description of the flowering plant has to be brief, in a scientific language and in a proper sequence. The sequence of things that need to be listed during description are habit, vegetative characters, floral diagram, floral formula, and finally examples. Different type of symbols are used for writing the floral formula. Which are the different symbols used? Bracteate, then BR, ebracteate, EBR. Then second position is filled by the symmetry, which can be either actinomorphic, zygomorphic, or asymmetric, ASS. Then third position is filled by the gender, that is male or female or bisexual. Then for calyx, the symbol used is K. For corolla, C is used. For androecium, A is used, and for gynoecium, G is used. A superior ovary is indicated by a line below G, and an inferior ovary is indicated by a line above G. Syncarpous condition of the ovary is indicated by brackets. Brackets are used to indicate cohesion between the floral whorls. A line between the floral whorls indicate adhesion. For Brassicaceae family, floral formula is actinomorphic. It's a bisexual flower. For calyx, there is 2 plus 2, 2 outer, 2 inner sepals. Then for corolla is 4. Then androecium is 2 outer plus 4 inner stamens. And for gynoecium, there is a superior ovary and it's a bicarpillary superior ovary. For Solanaceae family, flower is bisexual and actinomorphic. There are 5 fused sepals, valvate aestivation. Corolla is 5 united petals, valvate aestivation. Androecium 5 stamens, which are epipetalous. They are attached to the petals, epipetalous situation, important. And the gynoecium is bicarpillary syncarpous, obliquely placed ovary with exile placentation, important, and it has many ovules. Fruit is berry or capsule. Seeds are many and endospermous, remember that. Examples you have to remember: tomato, brinjal, potato, which are food, spice, chili, medicine, belladonna, ashwagandha, fumigatory, tobacco, ornamental, petunia. And the floral formula for Solanaceae family is actinomorphic, bisexual, calyx is 5 fused, corolla is also 5 fused, androecium are 5, but they are not fused with each other, they are fused with the corolla. The gynoecium is bicarpillary superior ovary. Okay, so this is the floral formula for Solanaceae family. So that is it from this chapter, Morphology of Flowering Plants. Learn all the examples properly, use mnemonics.